very good evening to you. Twice a week, you hear both sides of a divide telling you what they think on one issue or the other. This is the only day in the week that they do it at the same time in the same studio. This is Joint Caucus, and I'm your host, Mercy Ajabing. Tonight, we'll be looking at the ministerial vetting process. Is it necessary? What does it achieve? How has the minority's absence affected the process? Well, civil society has been rather vocal in the run-up to and during the process so far. AFAG and the Ghana Bar Association both made calls to the NPP to involve itself in the process. And the Forum for Governance and Justice believes the entire process needs overhauling. What are we missing? That's what we're going to be looking at. And with me to debate the issue tonight is Samuel George Nete of the NDC, and we're expecting Richard Nyama of a Young Patriot. He should be joining us soon, even as we take on this discussion. So welcome, viewers, and welcome, Samuel George.
Thank you very much, Mercy.
Well, on to the vetting. We're looking at the vetting process. Is it necessary? Should we really be doing this?
Well, a very good evening to our viewers. The point must be made that the vetting of ministerial nominees by Parliament, the Appointments Committee of Parliament, is not something which is just done by mistake. It is something which is actually constitutionally mandated. The 1992 Constitution urges us to actually have this process, and that's why the August House of Parliament has a standing committee, the Appointments Committee, which carries out vetings which have happened since 1992. The point must be made that it is a process which is of utmost importance, because at that is the only opportunity that the Ghanaian public, who these ministers are going to serve, have the opportunity to account to the Ghanaian people. They have the opportunity, the Ghanaian people have the opportunity to quiz them. Members of the public are free to send in questions. Members of the public are free to send in misgivings about the individuals who have been nominated. Okay, and that is the only time that members of the public have their say. And that is the only time where we get to test the pulse of the individual who's been nominated by the president. So it is a very fundamental process when it comes to the delivery of good governance in this country. We cannot do without it.
But the minority has been absent, and people are questioning, people are asking, has it affected the process in any way?
Not at all. In actual fact, many people have actually forgotten and need to be reminded when they watch the proceedings that the minority is actually not there. It tells you how insignificant they have reduced themselves to in Parliament. The point must be made that what Ghanaians are interested in is not the childish heckling which we see that characterizes some of these vetting processes. In fact, it becomes nauseating at a certain point in time. The last 4 years when we watched the vetting process, we saw how petty some of the members of Parliament could get with some of the questions they asked, which had no bearing on the core competence of the minister nominees.
But there are those who also hold the view that because the minority is absent, certain critical questions could not be asked. So
we just ended day 2 today, and nobody seems to have that opinion. The nominees who have come so far, from Honorable Setekpe to Madam Hannah Sewatete, to I think today we had that Greek minister, Honorable Humado, we had Alhaji Collins Dawda works in housing, we had Alhaji Fuseni, Inusa Fuseni today. Look, they have been grilled. They have actually been grilled like tilapia. They've been sent through the hot coal. People have asked very pertinent questions. You know, someone even approached me today and said, "But why would Baba Jamal ask Honorable Setekpe a very personal question with regards to his personal relationships with members of staff at the Ministry of Finance?" And I said, "Why wouldn't he?"
But don't you think because you probably belong to the NDC, that's why you're taking that standard? What happens to democracy? Because that is what people are asking. For example, constituents that these members of parliament represent have not been represented. That is what some people are saying.
Well, that's not a matter for the NDC. As far as we are concerned, all NDC members on the appointments committee are present. I think that is a matter the people of Ghana, the constituents of those constituencies whose MPs are supposed to be on the appointments committee and who have decided that the party's national executive committee or council is more important than those who voted them to be in power. 4 years is just by the corner. 4 years will come right now. They should show those MPs where power lies. They should point it out to those MPs that they voted for them to go and do work in parliament, to sit there and vet the ministerial nominees who would serve their constituents, and not for them to take instruction from the National Executive Council.
Okay, now let's go back to the content of the vetting itself. We've talked about the process, the minority was not there, but let's look at the content now. You were talking about Baba Jamal.
Yes, you look at the content, and I think that if you follow closely the vetting process, you would appreciate His Excellency John Dramani Mahama the more. You ask me why. You realize the core competence of the gentleman and lady who have so far been vetted. You realize that they are men and women who have been cut out for the roles the president has assigned to them. We're having square pegs and square holes. We're not having round pegs and square holes, or square pegs and round holes. These are people who have expertise, because today, Honorable Humado, he had to be told by the chairman of the committee that, look, break down your answers for all of us here to understand.
But that's the purpose of the vetting.
Yes, clearly. And you see, that is why I'm saying that for me, if you're asking about the content, you realize that we have the men to deliver the job. You can start from Honorable Setekwe. He showed a complete mastery of finance,
okay, now
and managing the financial system.
Coming to Honorable Humado having to break down the technicalities of whatever he was talking about, the Forum for Governance and Justice is calling for an overhauling of the process, saying that these nominees must present some 20-page document which is supposed to have their vision, the purpose, and then the content. Where do you situate this?
Well, I think it is within the rights of the Forum for Governance and Justice as a policy think tank to have its own ideas and bring forward his own ideas. I believe that for them, that I think I saw a copy of their press statement, and what they are calling for is for the nominees to present some sort of paper which is going to be a blueprint of what their terms as ministers will be. I think that it is a call in the right direction, but I believe that the current system still takes into consideration the needs that the Forum for Governance and Justice wants to meet. If you ask me why, if you look at this vetting process, which has been devoid of the NPP minority, it has been focused on issues. When the minority is there, it always becomes like a Makola scene, you know, where people are engaged in all sorts of banter. But you realize that with just the NDC in the appointments committee now, you're seeing focus on serious business. And if you look at so far the nominees who've been vetted, you realize that they have basically been asked the questions, have taken them to task. And those would have been issues which they would have addressed in their policy paper, let me call it that. Okay, because if they have to present a paper to the vetting committee, they will be quizzed on that paper they present. Okay. Now, for me, I believe that this also gives us a wider room also. Okay,
let's take a short excerpt on some of these what you call it,
vetting process.
Yes.
From your CV that you served as a member of the board of Caucus, a team that I love so much. And you survived 7 years in such a turbulent, male-dominated environment. I'd like to know how you managed it and whether it has an impact on your survival instinct as a politician.
Mr. Chairman, I think the same instincts that have kept me surviving in politics for this length of time are the same instincts that I applied on the board of Accra Hartsville. But I must say that my colleagues on the board of Accra Hartsville were very, very chivalrous. They were perfect gentlemen when it came to their relations with me. When it came to the very heated disagreements, it was more between themselves than with me. So I had a very good time. This is the Ghana flag that you will be representing, if approved by Parliament. I want you to comment on the flag. Mr. Chairman, let me start with the flag. It's upside down. The Ghana flag. Honourable Member, the Ghana flag that I will be representing and very proudly representing is red, gold, green with a black star in the middle. Each of those colours and the arrangement in which the colours are placed on our flag have a special significance. And I think it's always important for us to remember that there's a reason why things were done the way they were. So if you could turn it the other way around. That is the Ghana flag that I'm going to be representing.
The third part of my question has to do with a raging debate which was started by a very respectable man of God recently before the swearing in and inauguration of President Mahama. He did make the point that 30% of all contracts should go to the opposition, should go to MPP contractors. I do not know too much about the road sector. What is your view about this whole perception of party contractors? And are you going to deepen this perception, or you will be looking at quality, which contractors can do the work, and how this nation can have credible outcomes in terms of the contracts which are given out to contractors?
Every average Ghanaian ought to have known that contracts are not shared like granules. And since things are not shared like granules, I come from the north, that's why I'm using granules as a simple thing we share around. They are not shared like granules. The contracts are given out through a procurement process. And the procurement process does not label contractors. Contractor A, B, C, D all go in for the procurement process, and it will be evaluated, and whoever falls within the required considerations of the contract is awarded. They don't look at your contract certificate to know whether it belongs to MPP, it belongs to PPP, UP, UFP, or any this one. The evaluation, no contractor is asked to label your contract document so that they will know these are MPP. We should take 30% of them for them. There's a procurement process, and contracts are won on merit, irrespective of which party you belong. And I don't think that over the past, contracts have been given to party people. Contracts are given out on merit.
Okay, welcome back. So, Sam George, what do you make of the excerpts we just watched?
Oh, clearly, I think that they buttress the point I have made. You saw Madame Hannah Tete being able to even spot a little upside down positioning of the flag. Okay, when she was asked about the flag, she was able to point that out. You also realize that when the roads minister designate was asked, he made a very clear point. Okay, that look, those who are calling for us to share the contracts based on party basis, contracts are not shared like granules. Okay, it's serious business. It's based on competence. If you look at the entire process of the vetting so far, and I believe it's going to carry on along the process, along the rest of the nominees, you realize that this is serious business for serious minds. Okay, and clearly, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the process itself, have the people been quizzed well? I think Ghanaians, if you talk to a cross section of Ghanaians, you'd realize that for them, they are 100% confident in the depth of knowledge that the nominees have displayed. I think that the only thing that is lingering on everybody's minds now, myself included, is the hope that the implementation of the wonderful ideas they have put out there will be carried out. Okay, because when it comes to the stuff, having the knowledge of the sector, you realize that these are gentlemen and women who are spot on.
Isn't that the reason why the group is saying that we should have some form of a document where we can hold these people to, for example, if it is like your business plan, from time to time we can look at the indicators and see how you are performing and what you are achieving, because this was your vision.
Well, that belongs to the different committee of Parliament. There's an accountability committee that's been set up in Parliament, which is supposed to monitor ministers after they become ministers in terms of their achievements. And
yes, but essentially what this group is asking for, or what this group is proposing, let me put it that way, proposing is that we have these ministers, or these ministers designate to present this kind of a document. Is not out of the Constitution? Is it something that can be considered? Is it worthwhile?
I do not want this to come across like I have a problem again with the presentation of the document. I don't have a problem whatsoever. If it could serve as for records purposes, we can always flash that paper back in your face and say, this is what you told us 4 years ago, this is what you told us 2 years ago when you were being vetted. For me, the point I'm making here is whatever any minister designates is going to come and say, or whatever he's going to present in the paper, must be in tandem with this, the social contract we entered into with the people. No minister designate will sit there and speak outside of the manifesto of the party that has nominated him. And so for me, I believe that whatever documents they will present, it's going to be within the framework of the manifestos of the party.
Good, but this is the manifesto of the party, and then we have the needs of the country, the National Development Planning Committee, for example. And so in situations where there are projects, or there are projects that are in the manifesto, but we don't find them as a national priority, as has been the case in some situations, how do we draw the line? Where do we the measure?
Well, a good manifesto will take into considerations the policy prioritization of the National Development Planning Commission. Any manifesto that is worded sort will do that. And so clearly every manifesto must basically touch what the priorities of the NDPC are in terms of where this country is moving to. Basically, what differs in our manifestos, you realize that we speak about almost basically the same issues. All that differs is our prioritization. What do you choose to make a priority? Do you choose to make the economy a priority? Do you choose to make education a priority? Do you choose to make access to healthcare a priority? And then how are you going to solve this? You see, the manifestos actually talk about how we will solve the existing national problems. Okay, we don't create the problems are there. Our manifestos are supposed to tell us, or tell the Ghanaian people, how are we going to solve these problems that exist. And that's why you look at education, which was a trending issue in the 2012 election. Education, the NPP said, we'll give you free SHS. The NDC said, no, it's not just about having free senior high school. It's about us touching the basic parts of education and making sure that that is truly basic and universal and free. Then we can build up along the lines. And that's why we said we'll eliminate all the remaining 60% of schools on the trees, build an additional 200 senior high schools, build an additional university, an additional... You see, we gave different solutions. And so now, if an education minister comes to be vetted, he's going to speak to the solution of the education problem in this country within the framework of what the NDC has promised.
Fantastic. But when we come back, we'll look at that vis-a-vis the nation's or the country's needs. So viewers, when we come back, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll look at the manifesto vis-a-vis the nation's needs or priority. Welcome back. Well, we've been joined by Richard Nyama. We said earlier that he was supposed to join us. Welcome, Richard. We've been looking at the vetting process, the content, and the fact that the minority has boycotted it. Has it made any difference? So far, that's what we've been looking at. And
thank you. And let me first and foremost make a quick apology to your viewers. I was slated to be here early, but circumstances beyond my control did not allow me to. That said, I think the boycott of the MPP is not necessarily meant to take away the shine of, or whatever it is, of the process. But it is clear, per what is going on and the cries from civil society and all that, the process has been greatly affected, though that was not the intention. The questioning is one-sided to the extent that even apologists of the NDC, like Kwesi Pratt, will say some of the will question the quality of MPs and the fact that they cannot even ask simple questions. It came to bear because the opposition brings something to the table that the government doesn't have, and that is undisputedly quality. MPP brings quality to the table. That is missing in this whole process. Those questioning obviously don't know their question lines, and the person is questioning but ends up rather preparing the way and the answer for the person who is being questioned to take a leeway or give him indications as to what to say. He repeats virtually the same stuff, and we're supposed to be having
Richard,
a vetting
your critics are saying that
yes,
if that is the reason or if that is the case, why were you not there to ask those questions?
Oh, but it's good. Number one, Ghanaians have seen how hollow the NDC is per this process. Number two, we are just being principled. The principles are there. We have contesting the legitimacy and the presidency of President Mahama. He is sending his lieutenants to be accredited to act on his behalf. If we're questioning his power and authority, what business do we have giving credence to those that he's going to appoint? That is the point. But basically, for me, that is even besides the point. The caliber of people who have been brought to the table and the manner in which they were even nominated to become ministers.
Again,
The
Richard, your
yes,
critics again say that you have the matter in court,
yes,
and so you should leave the determination to the court, and so you have a responsibility to the nation and to your constituents by representing them. So where do you draw the line? Is it now, where do you draw the line?
And who says our constituents disagree with the fact that we boycotted the process? Has any person done any survey to the effect that the constituents of the MPs in Parliament disagree with their being there? There's no scientific survey. For all you know, they like that.
Okay, but
for all you know, the NDC and the way they are going about things does not please the majority of the people.
Okay, I'm still on your critics.
Yes.
The critics again say that you do not only represent NPP members because your constituents are made up of both NPP, NDC, CPP. I mean, everybody within the constituents. You are representing that person. And
Yes.
so if you decide that you are boycotting because that is what your party members say, then you are not allowing the other members who are not within your party to exercise their democratic rights.
No, I think the question in itself is defective. You are suggesting that those representing the MPs and the constituents they represent are, per our actions, representing just the MPP. No. They are representing their constituents. And who tells you that there are no NDC supporters who voted for MPP candidates? What we are saying is that no survey has been done to prove that what is happening there or the boycott, in any case, is it illegitimate? No, it is within our right to exercise that. Point is, what is the quality and caliber of people being brought? What processes went into bringing them there? If you have a president virtually being coerced into choosing ministers by the powers that be within the NDC, okay, and the president is forced to bid a retreat and is forced to virtually pack the castle with some 15 ministers who have already been appointed to some ministries, and the playground is being made ready for loggerheads and confusion to persevere. Let the whole process start and you will see. You have a group of 3 wise men supposed to be implementing what? Special projects, and the special projects are supposed to fall under ministries. Because the powers that be and their constituents are forcing the president. 5 equators people at the flower
take up arms, the president gives him a portfolio called what? Finance and what? Allied institutions. The finance ministry is there. Are you saying Fetekpa is incompetent? Haruna Idrisu's people take up arms. Bang, bang, bang. The next day, he's appointed minister. Kofi Bua, Ama Kofi Bua. If they don't make him minister of oil and gas, there will be hell in this country. The next day, he's announced.
How do we know if these appointments were not done already?
Oh, and so it's by coincidence that about 5-6 ministers have chaos in their constituencies and calling the president to appoint them to specific ministries. And the next day, the president does that. That is a coincidence. Oh, that would be a beautiful one. The president must be not himself. Somebody must be kind of shadow boxing him to do what he's doing. Because I do not understand why 5-6 ministers are appointed on the whims and caprices of people other than the president, if he says he's in charge. But you know what? It comes to confirm the fact of the president himself putting out that he's sometimes indecisive and confused when it comes to taking major decisions. And that needs to be questioned. You look at the ministers so far, you see the list that are coming. Deputy ministers haven't come yet. It's 35 and 40 counting. And everybody is just being packed, job for the boys. Come and share.
Okay. George, sorry. Before we went on the break, we were talking about the manifesto vis-a-vis the priorities of the country, or the needs. Let's put it that way. The needs. Haven't done a needs assessment. What we need.
Before I proceed on that tangent, I would like to respond to a couple of issues that have been raised.
Okay.
It is most unfortunate that Richard will want to compare the president to maybe the young patriots. The young patriots we know are being remote controlled by powers that be within the NPP. It is very, very sad and unfortunate that he will want to compare the way and manipulation of the young patriots, of which he is, I think, a convener or a leader, to the president who is taking executive decisions. Well, if they are not aware, the president has not just assigned ministers of state at the castle. Each of them has a specific portfolio. You say job for the boys. This is not the NPP we're talking about. This is the NDC we're talking about, where we're talking about people with core competences being put in specific areas. You talk about Honorable Alassane Azong. He's in charge at the presidency of public sector reform, which is an ongoing process, which was also carried out under President Kufuor's administration. Was that also job for the boys under President Kufuor? When you talk about Honorable Rashid Pelpo, he's in charge of public-private partnerships. Most of our development agenda right now is being carried on a PPP basis. We need, and most of those things are reverted to the president for executive approval. Now the president needs someone. All he's doing is delegating jobs to ensure that we have a more efficient system running. You look at Dr. Alhaji Mustafa Ahmed. He's in charge of development authorities and the office of the president. You have SADA, you have SEDECOM. Okay, there are so many. There's the Western Region one also. There are so many development agencies, and SADA in itself is huge. You don't expect the president to keep working on every single memo directly once it comes from the executive secretary of SADA.
Their argument is that there are ministries.
Look, I'm telling you that the office of the president, they don't understand the office of the president. Many of them were not close maybe to the Kufuor presidency for them to understand how a presidency is run. There are over 51 institutions in this country which report directly to the president. The Ghana AIDS Commission. It doesn't report to the Minister of Health. They are under the direct auspices of the Office of the President. The Brand Ghana Office, direct auspices of the Office of the President. Over 51 such institutions in this country. Okay, and to the point is, these are special initiatives. SADA, under what ministry is SADA? Under what ministry is SEDECOM? They are presidential initiatives. And so they report directly to the president. When you want to create a more efficient system, so that you have an efficient running machine which doesn't have to hold on when the president is out of the country till he comes back.
Okay.
You say it's job for the boys.
Hold on for me. Richard, I was going to come to you on that under the Kufuor administration, we had the presidential initiative, an outfit for that. Isn't that akin to what is happening in the NDC situation now? And let's look at it from the country's perspective rather than the party perspective.
Of the senior minister that was present in the Kufuor administration.
Okay, let him respond.
Don't worry,
to
I'll respond to all that. I'm glad today Sam alludes to the fact that he was closer to the Kufuor administration than some of us.
So.
I'm not sure that's
I did not say so.
At least he was at the office of the former vice president.
Let's be fair. He said that
when he was shadow
close.
boxing me, it wasn't an issue. Please.
Okay.
Point is this. Point is this. The president, you mentioned Rashid Pelpu. We are saying the president is confused. Rashid Pelpu is appointed to what? Tourism and something. The next day, the arts. And
no, Richard, I think we've made that point. I'm asking
specific examples.
Yes, and I'm asking specifically that.
Yes, I'm putting them into context.
Isn't the presidential initiative outfit that existed under the Kufuor administration akin to what we are seeing now?
Which are the presidential initiatives?
I'm asking you that under the Kufuor administration, we had the presidential special initiatives, and he is putting all these together to say that Rashid Pelpo, Fifi Kwete, and those people he has mentioned
I want him to be clear what presidential
under
initiatives he was talking about. What happens is that if you have these ones, SADA has a CEO. Are you aware of that?
Who reports to?
Let's go on.
Yes.
Who reports to?
Then the Western Development Program, or whatever they call it, has a CEO. So that's the central one. All these special initiatives you're talking about do have CEOs who directly report to the president.
Okay. What about under the presidential special initiatives under the Kufuor administration? Let's look at it as a country.
Yes. Oh, so today they accept that the special initiatives that Kufuor initiated are so brilliant that they're copying it.
Nobody has
and
said so.
please.
I represent
that is the question.
Even if
That
it
is
is
not what we have
copied,
said.
That is the question.
even if it is copied, I am
Yes.
looking at it, gentlemen. I am
That's
looking
not what I
at it
said.
from the development of the
Dancing around
country
the pressure.
perspective. Yes.
But that is the point I am making. That, look, you have several ministers already appointed. These people, these institutions have CEOs that are attending to them. Kufuor did not appoint a minister to each special initiative, did he? No. There were CEOs that were in charge of them and taking care of those initiatives. Finito.
Did they fall under any ministries?
Any ministry.
Did they report to any authority higher than them, like ministers?
No, if it was, they would confer. Those that had to do with manufacturing and all those things had a direct relationship with the Trade and Industry Ministry, for instance.
Okay.
Yes, but at the end of the day, your report goes to the president. The president doesn't need to appoint another minister to be in charge of special initiatives. You have three, you know what? When the issue of the three wise men, here I mean E.T. Mensah, Bagbin and Avoka were appointed. Issue was that they've been demoted. And what was the response? No, they have not been demoted. If they've not been demoted, they are still like ministerial level. They're going to be drawing salaries up to that level. And yet, whatever they do fall or come under special or specific ministries. All the people he's mentioned who are at the presidency, one way or the other, call it difficulties.
Are there any clear terms of reference for them?
Why would you have a minister at the presidency in charge of finance and allied institutions?
Okay.
What does that mean?
Okay.
You know,
you want to respond to
hogwash
that?
is that?
Okay, you want to respond to that?
Let's call a spade a spade. Nobody's copying the presidential initiatives of Kufuor because look, it's a failed system. Not even one of those initiatives survived the Kufuor administration. Why would you want to copy the framework they used? And that's the problematic problem.
Okay, fine.
And
So
that's
let's
why we're bringing
go to the
solutions
substantive
to it.
issue now.
Look,
yes.
you talk about saying that he talks about the NPP boycotting the entire process, the vetting process, on the basis of principle.
No, we're talking about
the
Fifi
vetting.
Kwete and the others.
You
Those
see,
they
for me,
claim
that
to be ministers
that was not the substance of our discussion today. It's an aside Richard brought in when he was dancing around your question. He failed to answer the questions you asked him, and he's rather brought in allied topics into the discussion.
But
I want to go back to the
case,
vetting. I'm going back to the vetting.
Before we go back to the vetting,
I'm going back to the vetting.
let's just exhaust that point and then go back to
I was
the
invited
vetting.
here to discuss the vetting and not to discuss the kinds of appointments that His Excellency made. Okay, if we want to discuss appointments, we would have to go as far as asking what senior ministers. The MPP Kufuor appointed somebody called a senior minister.
I think that, gentlemen, I think that we developed a point.
Can I make my point?
I think that we developed a point, and you just need to exhaust that piece on the
exactly
special initiative of the president.
You see, the point I'm making here is, before he came in, we discussed the MPP's absence or not. He's come in and made points to that effect. I want to respond to that. Okay. Now the point I'm making here is this: you claim that it is on a basis of principle that you're walking away from the vetting committee. One, because you have a case in court and you do not respect the legitimacy of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Now, for me, it smacks of crass hypocrisy, and I'll tell you why. You don't respect the president. You don't see him as legitimate. You don't see his ministers as legitimate. Yet you sit in that house and discuss 50,000 Ghana cedis, 500 million Ghana cedis, 500 million old cedis as rent allowance, and you sit there and you want to take it. You discuss 70,000 cedis as vehicle allowance.
Okay, I'm also going to take you back on your own point that we are discussing the vetting.
It's a vetting I'm talking about.
I'm taking you on your own point that we're discussing the vetting, and we're running up in 3 minutes.
Yeah, Messi. So if you let me make my point.
I want to give him a minute to round off. We have indications of the possible
so you're
return.
Cutting me midstream?
We have indication of a possible return of a minority to the vetting process.
Yeah.
Yes, we've had the minority leader speak on that.
Since when?
Today.
That they are returning, or a possible return. Until they return, they haven't returned. And for me, that is it. The party
but we
has
had him
also
speak
issued
categorically on the point that they are human beings, and if they are consulted, they have to reconsider.
Yes,
that's what he said.
The minority leader's opinion was such. The party has issued a statement, for instance, responding to the Ghana Bar Association as to why the MPP is boycotting the process.
Okay, so
I am saying,
we should throw away what he said.
One predates the other. Okay, one I'm just referring to from the party chairman just came out.
Okay, so in 30 seconds, do we take his word or do we not?
Do you take whose word?
The minority leader. He gave indication.
He did not promise you anything. He said we may. We may is conditional.
Okay. Do you expect them to return or not?
If they return, it will be a huge concert. And I'm throwing a challenge to the minority in parliament, led by Mr. Lawrence Adai, aka Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu. Look, if the minority claims to be men of principle, for once, they should stick to their guns. For once, they should stick to what they believe in. For once, they should stick to their principles and boycott the parliamentary, the vetting committee, appointments committee.
And what happens to democracy?
Then the Ghanaian people will hold them to task. Since they have decided that they want to go with principles, I'm throwing a challenge to them. If they fail to do that and they go back, I would just see this as another episode of a night of 1,016 laughs. Normally it holds at a conference center. This time it's just crossed the road to Parliament House.
Okay, so look, Richard, you're sticking to your...
Can I land? You see, my point is they must...
Our time is up. So you're sticking to your...
The fact that Richard came late is not supposed to take into my time.
Yeah.
The fact he came late doesn't mean you have to keep cutting me to give him time to speak.
No,
okay?
I'm not cutting him. Okay, make your point.
Let me make my point.
But you have 30 seconds.
Let me make my point.
Okay, make your point.
Let me make my point.
30 seconds.
The point I'm making here is very simple. They should have the moral courage to recuse themselves from every government business, including the 1.2 billion cedis largesse they want to take from that, which will be disbursed from the Ministry of Finance. By the Minister of Finance, they said it's illegitimate. Okay. I want to understand the moral courage they would have to reject vetting that minister because he's an illegitimate minister, appendage of the president, and yet go back and take money from that same minister. Okay. Let me see if they would have the moral courage to withstand that.
So you are going to stick to your gut and not return to the vetting process? I'm
saying that the party has issued a statement explaining to the Ghanaian people, the Ghana Bar Association, and everyone who is concerned as to why we will not go back there until the minority and the party do come out and indicate that we should go back.
Okay.
We are where we are.
Okay.
And nothing from Sam George will change the status quo. Okay. Sam is only raving around.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a lively discussion. Viewers, thank you very much for your time. We've been looking at the vetting process, and I had Samuel George from the NDC, and Richard Nyama from the NPP. Many thanks for your attention. Good evening.